Yeah, YouTube.
Oh, there we go. We are live.
Oh, we're live.
World.
What's going on, gang? It's about time to get it done.
Or handle it right.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys. Welcome to our second installment of Hold My Beer. Like I said, we appreciate people that have liked, commented, subscribed. We're just out here talking freight, and last week was fun. I think we're gonna have fun today. TJ, you want to lead it off with today's topic?
Yeah, we're talking a little bit about dehumanization. I mean, Nicole came up with it, and I think it's a pretty cool topic. I mean, robots are a real thing, and I think they're the future, right? Isn't that what the topic's on?
Yeah, just how the whole industry is changing, and we're going more to technology-based things to lead us forward, and what happens to people when we do that, and what does that look like today, 5 years, 10 years? I know that a lot of people have either fears they don't want to talk about with the topic, or they're just embracing it and they're coming up with ways to move forward with it. So I think it's cool. I mean, for a long time, for myself, even when I worked for other people, we all felt that like, okay, the world's changing. I mean, when Uber for trucks came along, I know it was like, what's going on here? So I think it's a great topic. And we'd love to bring some of the audience members who have opinions and thoughts on this with us on this actual live stream, and give us your viewpoints on what you're thinking and what's going on in your world.
I thought it was on robots, like robots taking over.
That's just my bad internet.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that. I got a whole thing on robots.
Oh, well, we can still hear about robots because they are definitely.
They can't book freight.
Well, they're working in warehouses now. I've seen that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'll give my take, and then obviously we've got some people in the waiting room, but I don't think it's ever going to be dehumanized or completely automated. I think that you're always going to have that human aspect, that relationship, that one-on-one, pick up the phone. I think that technology is getting better and better. Integrations for tracking. There's a lot of different P44, fork guides, trucker tools. I mean, there's an endless amount, and I think that's important. I think there's a lot of marketplaces that's going to enable people to find, for the people who want to find freight and book it without that person. But I think there's just always going to be a human element. I don't care how many people rise up out of the techie DC world. It's never going to be fully automated. There's always going to be a human element.
Absolutely. You can put autonomous trucks on the road or whatever, but no one's going to stop and tighten the straps. No one's going to open the back doors and check in with the shipper or the receiver. No one's going to slide the axles. I mean, computers aren't going to do that.
Sometimes drivers still don't do that.
You're right.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, TJ.
No, I mean, the same thing. It's just no matter where the am I going in and out? My connection?
You're good.
Oh, you sound good.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's kind of going in and out on my end. But I think that the human connection is something that brings the trust. So at the end of the day, I've always talked like kind of that base of the relationship, whether it's like an actual relationship, marriage, it doesn't matter, friendship, whatever it is, even in business, trust is what really kind of drives us, the foundation. Then all the variables differ, right? But I think the human element's what brings the trust. I think that's, getting on the phone, talking to somebody, going and seeing them in person brings that trust to you, because you've got somebody that you can work with, empathize with, that can empathize with you, and you can't really do that, electronically. I think for me, it's more of a balance. It's a kind of sell myself, my personality, and my drive and what I can do, and then just let them know that because I can do all that, but I've got the technology to back it. It's just another element to go with it. It's not one or the other. It's right. That's what you can get, when it comes to it. So, that's my take on it.
So being in the quoting world on truckload, I'll ask you guys this question then. I've heard that there are companies out there right now that are really just taking data, right? So they're pulling these data pools and they are going out to market from yesterday, today, and they are trying to replace that element of just kind of how we come up with a spot rate and throw it out to the market or to the customer and try to book at that. What do you think, Brandon, in regards to that concept of pricing and how that's working? And do you think eventually, I know we're talking about having relationships, but do you think that is ever going to impact on a way that you're doing business today with some of your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think for every newer sales rep that gets their first big RFP and puts a bid in, and they're just so determined, and they just know that they're going to get a $1-2 million award, and then they, you know, the shipper tells them like, hey, things are looking good. You know, we're going to schedule an onboarding call, and then you get ghosted, and then they email back, and then they say, oh, you weren't selected. I'm sorry. I think I think that happens a lot. And I think they take those prices, and I think, you know, as a shipper, they aggregate a lot of that. On the spot side, I don't know how that they would do that. How do you dictate right now that, you know, UP and BN are, you know, doubling their price in southbound California, you know, for their bigger customers, and the rates that are already crazy are going to keep going up. And I don't know how you could predict that, plan for it. So I think on the contractual side, I don't think that'll ever end. On the spot side, you know, I guess anxious to see how that would play out.
TJ, what do you think?
What's that?
In regards to pricing, you know, with some of the spot lanes that we see, and, you know, you have customers coming to you for rates. There are companies that are generating and creating these bots that are just pulling data, you know, from today, yesterday, a month ago, a year ago, and they're trying to construct these spot rates to go to market with, and without a person having to gather that information from a carrier or even come up with it themselves and putting that to a client. So how do you think that would change your working world with something like that? Like, how would that impact your company on the carrier side?
I tell you what, I'm going to have to answer that here in just a minute. Quick TV break for myself only, because I got to figure out my connection just kind of went off here a little bit. So.
Oh. Are you in Gary, Indiana?
Me?
Should be in Mishawaka.
No, you get better reception there because the smokestacks, they reach up higher. But let me see what I can do here. Hang on.
Hey, well, we can do while you're fixing that if you guys want. We've got Andrew Ramirez, Aaron Hatfield, Liz Wayne, and someone by the name of Accident Plan in the waiting room. I can admit one real quick and get their take. You guys down with that?
For sure.
Okay. We'll bring in. I'm anxious to see who Accident Plan is.
I was gonna say the same thing.
And do this. They can't do it. You can tell a billion Chinese people to build as much as you want. They'll build. They'll tell them build. But to be creative, it's not in them. It's the creative minds, the freedom.
Well,
where he muted himself. I think this is Brandon, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Uh-oh, I've got some meeting going on.
Did I say your name right? I'm so sorry. I'm like going from memory. Is it Brendan? Brandon?
It's Brendan.
Yes. Saw your picture and I got it.
I've got two meetings going on here. I've got one on Zoom and also an icebreaker going on. I know I'm going to have to leave one of these in a minute.
Well, we want to hear your viewpoint before you go. I know you had some comments when we posted this topic. So before you hop off, let us know.
I'll be right with you. I'll be back to you guys in about 2 minutes. How's that?
All right. That sounds good.
All right. I'll bring in Andrew Ramirez.
All right. So yeah, Dan, it's crazy times. It's crazy.
It is crazy times.
You're gone.
Hey, what's going on, Andrew?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hey, man, glad you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me today. I appreciate that.
So,
Who are you, Andrew, and what do you do?
So I am a broker at TQL. based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Been here for almost a year now.
Nice. You threw some comments out there in regards to this topic too, right?
Yeah, I got lots of comments.
We want to hear it.
Yeah. Where should we start? Also, cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Cheers.
Is that a koozie we saw?
Yeah, we get a koozie every with TQL when we signed class of 2019.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. Where'd you guys start off? You guys want to talk about?
Well, we want to hear what your viewpoints are. I mean, we just started talking about this topic on really the dehumanization. I'm going to mess that up. Come on, someone help me out.
I've been drinking Jack again.
I'm not. I'm on Bud Light today.
Dehumanization.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I missed a little bit of it because I just got in here, but with that topic, the biggest thing is, I mean, I'm assuming we're talking like broker-carrier relations, kind of on that topic. It's all, what I've noticed is that a lot of it's all about money, right? Like I'll get a call in on one of my posted loads, and before asking how your day was, what your MC number is, this basic process. The first number or the first question lots of times is what is the rate? You know, just moving past it, kind of taking the human side out of it. And then, I mean, on the technology side of it, there is a lot of promised technologies or platforms or portals. I mean, even we sell a portal here at TQL that take the broker, take the carrier out of it, just kind of click and book, which is great for some modes, but I really think there needs to be a human interacting with a customer relations, a sales rep, whatever that is, because a computer or portal can't solve a problem, right?
So Andrew, what are you doing to combat that? You said, you hear, well, what's the rate? So what's your solution? What are you doing to get past that and start building a relationship?
Yeah. There's a lot of brokers out there, a lot of different companies, right? Some good, some great, some not so great. And before I became a broker, I was a bartender, right? Didn't work a day in logistics in my life. Came here. I want to try my hand at sales. I figured it was a translation, right? And fell in love with it so far. So, but what I do differently is every time I call someone, whether I'm calling out to a carrier or they call me, I try to ask what their day is because I feel that there's not enough of just sitting down and talking. The average phone call I feel like to a carrier is about 30 seconds. And I mean, you're doing business with them, right? Legit business. There's freight moving. There's value goods over the road with them. It shouldn't be a 30-second phone call when you're doing business with them. I wouldn't have a 30-second phone call with my customer or client, right? So I try to extend the conversation, just like ask them what their name is, right? And then if they ask me what the rate is or something like that, I keep pushing. I don't even tell them yet. I keep telling them about the load, try to get to talk to them more. Because honestly, when it's something that I am in charge of moving, you want to know who's moving it for you, right? Because I can't be boots on the ground. So that's little things. Some brokers could kill us. Some brokers do more than I do probably, but that's the personal thing. My number one thing is I always ask how their day was. Even if they don't ask me how my day was, I always ask.
Awesome.
I say good.
Accident plan.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Brendan.
Hi, Brendan.
Pleasure to meet you all. Thanks for the invitation. Glad I could join. You had a good. I'm sorry I was on two meetings there for a minute, but I'm all yours now. Did you have a question, Nicole? Something I should chime in on here?
No, I mean, we're just kind of talking in regards to where we see our industry going, and what do we see happening with this tech platform that the world is claiming that every company is building to really get rid of either a broker or even sometimes a dispatcher for a carrier. And it's going now to the owner operator running the show and picking his loads. And that seems to be the concept. We have warehouses now that are making bots that are taking up someone's normal responsibility. And so we're just wanting to chat and get people's ideas on what they think the tech side is going to really do in the future and what we should do and kind of plan on for a healthy balance of people versus tech ratio. Well,
I think the main purpose of technology, and I I see people define technology in a lot. Mostly people associate technology with computers, and I have sort of a wider view of technology as things that change, tools that are able to help us. So the way I see it happening, the way I think we should use technology and computers is to mitigate the human error, but not the human relationship, not the human contact. And I think that's where the computer technology comes in. And mind you, I don't have a lot of experience in shipping or brokerage, and I've been paying attention to these groups so I could learn about it, because my background is in trucking and specialty private trucking at that, before I became a software developer. So, technology is always something, whether it's computers or levers or wheels or screws, it's always something to improve a task or a job and make the job easier and more efficient. And if we're not using it that way, then it's the wrong use of the technology. And like Andrew was saying, he always asks how the day is going. And I appreciate that, because we don't want to lose the human connection. And I'll be honest with all of you, before the whole COVID thing and everybody started getting used to online meetings, it was really hard and very expensive for me to make human connection, because I'd have to travel. Yeah. And so those opportunities were fewer. Now that everybody's used to being on Zoom meetings, I have all the human connection that I can handle, which is great for me, because that's how I live, that's how I work. And so I appreciate it and what the technology is doing to help a human connection when there's so much distance between us all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate the input and opinion. So glad you're here. Glad all of you guys are here. Aaron, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Sorry about that there. I'm glad to be on, glad to listen.
Yeah, so I did want to hear, though, from you, Brendan, what type of software are you?
Our company's called Accident Plan, and it's for drivers and carriers. So it's crash protocol wrapped up in a digital platform, so that when a driver has an accident, rather than having to call somebody, well, in addition to calling somebody, because again, we don't want to lose that human connection, but it's the best crash management practices all rolled up into a digital app workflow that the driver just has to follow along. They gather all the information. It shoots the information back to the network, so that it protects the motor carriers and the drivers when it's time to submit claims.
So that's basically like step through, like take a photo of this, do this, make sure you have this.
Exactly. Okay. Engine off, triangles out, flashers on, parking brake set, take photos of this, don't take photos of that. Mind your manners, be careful what you say, make sure you get the other person's driver's license, the other person's insurance card. And
that's a great idea.
Of all that, and it shoots it back to the network, so that the carrier has real-time visibility into what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then it also serves as a first notification of loss for the insurance company as well.
That's very cool. That's a very cool concept. I like that.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear from Aaron too. Aaron, what is your background? What brings you here to chat with us?
So I was talking to TJ the other day, actually, on LinkedIn, and I've been in sales and logistics for, well, I come from a military background and then moved into sales and logistics for the last 6 years-ish or so. And right now, I own and operate, I'm just an independent freight broker. And I was talking to TJ, and I figured this is a great opportunity to hear some best practices and opinions from other individuals in the industry. Yeah. So.
Very cool. Welcome.
Thanks.
So is everybody on here besides me a broker?
No.
No, the silent one up in the corner, he's the shipper.
That's you, Brandon?
No. Well, I guess it's my corner. I don't know how they.
What corner you're looking
I'm in the
at?
center.
I've got Brandon in the top left and Aaron in the lower right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony in the top right is a shipper.
Okay, got it. And no carriers on the group today.
TJ's a carrier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. TJ, he must have his I don't know. He must have a tire blown, or maybe he's getting a checkout or something. I don't know. He's in and out. I think he's having a couple connection problems.
Very
I
cool.
see. He's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have not heard from Tony at all in regards to any of these concepts. Tony, if you, as a shipper, say you're able now to just go to your computer and just click a spot rate and accept a bid, or, whatever the case is, of just click and go as a shipper. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I've got all of my prices laid out, and all I have to do is shop capacity. The rates are bid and negotiated and set for whatever length of time we choose, and then we can come back and forth through that. There's definitely AI advancements. The industry has been lagging for so long, and now it seems like there's a glutton. There's just this flood of great data, great interfaces, great TMS systems, great tracking, great anything you can imagine. Somebody's got an answer for it. And it's been a godsend for us that we're capturing data and tracking stuff that we never knew we were missing before. And it's been a godsend. But at the same time, the carrier sales rep is still coming out and knocking on the door, and I'm still able to call him. I've still got his phone number. And there's a very human element there. You need both. The technology is going to make us better, but it's not going to take over.
Yeah, it's not. The people who are afraid of the technology in terms of like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I can promise you, since I've gotten out of trucking and into software development, I can promise you that the machines are stupid. We call them smartphones, and they're not.
They do what you tell them to do.
Artificial intelligence is only artificial. It's not intelligent at all. They're really good at following instructions. They're reliable as hell. But as soon as it doesn't understand an instruction, it stops working.
I worked at a place that went from a proprietary ERP to a AS400 system. It was like going back in time, and it was crazy.
Well, and a lot of trucking companies are still using AS400 systems.
Right.
Somebody speak English. I have no idea what that is.
I don't either.
The black screen with the green letters.
Yeah,
from like the 80s.
Think of it like
the
DOS.
Matrix? We talking Matrix?
Yeah, it's like DOS.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm probably the only one in the room old enough to remember what it's like to use DOS.
Been there.
I didn't know what that meant.
It was Microsoft's operating system before Windows.
Yep.
Yeah, it's before Windows, before mice.
Yeah, command, C :
Everything is a command
Yes.
line. Yeah.
So AS400 is very similar to that. There's no graphical interface. It's just keyboard.
It's
characters.
just keyboard and commands. There's nothing graphic about it.
F5, F3, F7.
And are you still, that's what you're on now, Tony?
Oh, no. I came from a
was
place
gonna say.
where I worked at a place that went from a proprietary Microsoft Dynamics based platform that went to AS400. It was like a time capsule.
Here's my fear, or not really fear, but sometimes you're living it. I think even with all the technology that's coming is great. And obviously everybody uses it differently, but sometimes there's just so much technology overload that you are really consuming more time than actually humanizing it and jumping on the phone or picking it up. I mean, there's just so much out there that it can take up more time than the alternative as well. So I think you got to be careful on your efficiency and how much you're using and really step back and measure your time as well.
Yeah, Tim Dooner just talked about this, actually. I don't know if you guys saw that. He was saying that there's so many different platforms that he's got to look at on a daily basis, whether that's, I don't know, an internal system. He's like LinkedIn messages that, And I made a comment like jokingly, and I was like, wow, if someone could do this, this would be awesome. But it was basically an interface concept of just taking all of the ways that we communicate and just going like this. And here you go, because we are.
I think I read something about that. I wasn't on that episode, but too many buckets and too many interfaces and too many sign-ons, too many user IDs, too many passwords. And we fight that in our sales efforts as well. There's app fatigue. And so I think where it's going to go, this is my prediction, is that if everybody's familiar with the term API as automated programming interface, you're going to see a lot more of these systems start to integrate where they're all just pulling data from each other's database and putting them into one interface, so that your TMS and your ELDs and your mileage tracking and everything is all in one system, so that when you do, say you're a carrier and you're upgrading your system, you can pull out the modules that you want and have them all ordered in there under one interface, one sign-on.
But you're still going to have to know how to fill out a logbook, because systems go down, connectivity goes away, and
systems go down. Well, it doesn't. And I put in PeopleNet in a small private fleet that I was working in 2004. So that was early adoption. And one of the things that does, what an ELD does, will tell you who understands hours of service and who doesn't. So because the computer doesn't know anything, all it does is count.
Yep.
I remember they used to say, carriers used to say, "Oh, I'll never give up my ELD information. I'll never let anyone tap into that." Now, obviously with P44, trucker tools, Four Kites, I mean, they're all getting access. It's just growing and growing and growing, and it's easier on my side to get a truck number than to worry about a driver name and number. And I think on the carrier side, as technology is growing and getting better, they're seeing that as well. So
they're seeing, everybody went kicking and screaming out of paper logs, and it was only a couple of years ago that we went kicking and screaming out of paper logs. And then all of a sudden everybody found out, well, geez, look how much time it doesn't take me to process my quarterly IFTA taxes anymore.
Yeah.
That used to be, I was in 9 trucks. It was a 12-hour a month job. And as soon
even preparing for the DOT, if you had to have a internal inspection, it was like where I worked before we had that, and it was just getting all of that data that was paper form and getting it to map out lay down on, this is what it is. And it was insane.
And if you're not a good filer like me, that's the one thing about the systems is the file always goes back where it belongs. So it's always there. And yeah, it was outrageous the amount of time you spent handling paper. And then when ELDs came in, it's like, you mean I can track all my miles and it'll do my tax returns for me?
My question about ELDs is, when you remember as a carrier, when you go to throw away that month 7 of your logs in the file in the office, what happens to the ELD data? Where's that going? Do you get to purge month 7 since you only have to require
any ELD provider that's worth the money you pay for them? They're not going to hold anything beyond retention. Anything beyond the 6-month retention. Never hold your records longer than you need to.
Is that set up to automatically?
Audit. Say that again, Tony.
Is that done automatically, or do you have to set that up?
It's done automatically.
TJ, you guys have ELDs?
Yep. Yeah, we've got Qualcomm OmniTrack. So yeah, I mean, it's something that, if you're good, if your safety department's good, and some of the owner operators don't necessarily have one, but they know what they're doing. They know how to. You're not really hiding anything. It's more just protection.
Well, level the playing field. But does it purge month 7 for your records? Do you know?
Yeah.
Top of your head. Cool. I was just curious. I've always wondered that. I never took the time to find out.
Are we sure? We all read the fine print. I mean, do those companies like OmniTracks, do they really, and it's a general question. It's not that I'm being, snide or anything, but there are a lot of technology and companies out there that you don't read the fine print, and they do save your data, and they do reuse it, and they do use it for other purposes. So are we sure that they purge it?
I mean, are we sure that Trump's not listening to us right now? I don't know. I'm booking freight, man. That's safety's job.
I'm just asking. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Maybe.
If they're using metadata, that may be one thing, hours of service just to actually look for patterns in data, that might be one thing. But if you're in a crash and plaintiff's counsel comes and subpoenas TJ for his records, for his hours of service records, that's all they're going to get from TJ. And if they want to go looking somewhere else, I doubt it would be admissible in any case.
Let me ask you this, and I do hold a CDL. Obviously, I'm not in a truck every day. Obviously, ELD mandate, but how many trucks out there have telematics on it? You're talking about wrecking and data. So do all of them, are they required to have telematics as well, or is that just for big fleets?
No, it has to be a telematic system. Otherwise, it's not an ELD. Am I right, TJ?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what you get with ELDs is not just. I mean, the benefits are huge. I mean, they're able to like text, send messages through. Like, if we can't get a hold of somebody, like say we just can't get a hold of somebody, we got to get them up. I don't know, plant. They got to get into the plant, whatever it is. I mean, we can send an alert to their ELD and just start going off. They can message in. I mean, they can send updates. So like when we send our dispatch confirmation to our drivers, it comes to their email, so they can have it like on their phone, but it also goes to their Qualcomm, so they can update. They can hit like on site. They can update their trailer number. They can do all that. They can message in. We can message them through that. So there's a lot of options on there that are awesome. But like you said, I mean, it's telematic. It's got a ton of different. I mean, if you look at it, even selling points, just visibility wise and update wise, I mean, that's what customers are looking for. And it takes drivers a little bit to get used to. Use your Qualcomm. The way. Well, if you hear from me. No news is good news with me. That's how it's always been for 30 years. Well, that's not how it works nowadays, man. You got to send your Qualcomm messages in, but it's different. I mean, it's a cool. I took like a course on it. There's a lot you can do with it.
Every one of our trucks has live telemetry. I can log in and tell you where every one of them are, how long they've been there, what they've done, and I can go back years.
The reason I asked is I worked for the Union Pacific Railroad, and in our trucks, they had telematics, but we didn't have VLDs. So we did paper logs, but at the end of the day, they could pull data and they could see how you were braking, how hard you were braking, are you speeding? Are you wearing your seat? I mean, every detail. So I guess with ELDs, I didn't know if that was separate or if that's all encompassed in that same technology.
It's like a switch. You can turn it on as an add-on.
Yeah, telematics is just data from the field is what it refers to as a basic general term of any machine to machine exchange of data is what telematics refers to. So what you do with it are all of these other things like state mileages and ELDs and maintenance files and all of that. So, and all of that data is there. And that's what, when we went to PeopleNet in 2004, the driver said, well, I can't do anything with my logs. I can't fudge my log even by 15 minutes. Well, you couldn't do that before. And you couldn't do it now. The only way you could get away with bootlegging your logs is if you paid cash for everything and never turned on your cell phone and never went through a toll plaza and never went through a weigh station. So all of that data has been there for a long time, and it's all reconcilable.
Yep.
And there's things you can do. I mean, like if you're looking at it and you got a couple loads playing on a guy and all of a sudden he's only got an hour left to drive and you're like, I swear I looked at it earlier. He had the hours, and you can go and see what happened. If there's a mistake, I mean, it has to be legit. Obviously you get audited, but like you can have that fixed. Your safety department can do things like that, but it's got to be, I mean, legit. But there's things you can do to help fix it. But that's what gets a lot of drivers in trouble is they try to do it themselves, not go through the proper steps. And then when they get caught, now they got to explain it. And, you know, they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. But if it's done on you know, through a different end, a lot of times it gets audited, but it's also, you know, usually trustworthy. But I think that's one big thing. I mean, if you think about it, you know, if you talk about the dehumidization, I mean, I could get in and see where each guy's at. I could see, you know, their location updates, like all the way down through the load every 15 minutes. You know, I could see all that stuff, but there's just something about, and I think we all know when it comes to tracking, like hearing the guy say, yes, I'm on site, like talking to him, having him send an actual message. And I think that's one big thing that about, you know, data to human is data is easily manipulated. I think it's easily twisted, and I think that's something we all know. And I think it's because it's something we all know how to do. So in our head, you know, we're thinking, you know, I'm gonna, not that we necessarily trust the person, but, you know, I think it takes a lot more guts to lie to somebody's face than it is to just go in and change some numbers around or change, you know, what GPS signal you're sending. So that's one thing I've seen. You know, I'll have somebody, I marked him on site, you know, because he's pinging around. I don't care. Call him and see if he's actually on site, you know, because, you know, last thing we need is that he's across the street, you know, sleeping because the guy told him that he, you know, isn't loading till 9, but he didn't even go to the right warehouse anyways, and they're waiting on him. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have that little bit, because there's so many ins and outs that go with it. So
well,
I think
you
that's
want to
one
talk
big
to your
thing.
guys just to make sure they're all right, just to hear their voice and say, talk to your drivers, and, you know, or you hear the tone of their voice. Are you all right? Are you sleeping okay? Or, you know.
Well,
I'm
don't do that.
seeing a
Don't call them when they're
disconnect
sleeping and
because-
ask if they're sleeping okay. That doesn't go well. I'll tell you
No,
that.
no, you got to wait. Well, and that's the
No.
other advantage, TJ, is you can tell when they're sleeping.
Right.
You know,
I
you
mean,
can
that's
look
true.
at their duty status. Oh, I don't want to call them then.
Oh, okay. Now the cat's out of the bag because, you know, TJ, last time I called you, I can't get a hold of that driver. I don't know where he is. I guess he's not picking up the load. He refuses to go there. You know,
Excuse me?
This dispatcher said, "Oh, this is an owner op, or hey, this is a corporate. We can't get hold of him. We don't know where he's at." Now you're telling me opposite. So I mean, where's the disconnect?
What are you saying? I guess I'm confused. Hang on a second. Oh, that's another broker. Yeah, no trucks, man. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. It was a 513 number. I think it was TQL. What the hell, Andrew? What are you doing?
Love it.
All right, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you were going with that, but power to you, man. I'm not. You know, we're all good.
No, it's interesting to hear. I mean, obviously, you know that you can sound a Qualcomm. You know, obviously, I've been in situations where you are worried about the safety of the driver because they really haven't heard from them. But I guess I wasn't aware that it's used more frequently than maybe if there's a safety measure. So that's a cool piece.
You mean like you haven't heard from them, or I guess what I'm.
Yeah, I mean, there's been cases, you know, where they really a carrier really can't get a hold of a driver, right? They're worried about their well-being. We could go off on some horror stories, but I've not been a part of, but I've witnessed some things that have been pretty bad. And yeah, I mean, it's like, well, we're gonna sound their ELD, their Qualcomm. But to me, that sounded like, man, that's something of a last resort. But you know,
yeah, that's a. I mean, literally, you could show up to an automotive plant and the dock workers say, you know, they maybe get off their shift like, we'll unload you at, you know, 8 a.m. and he leaves and he goes to sleep, and you get an email saying, hey, plant shuts down at 6 if he's not in there, right? You know, that's $100,000, $200,000 an hour. I mean, you're up, you're doing everything you can. I mean, that's a little different, and a lot of times I understand. Most of the times, you know, one thing that helped me on the brokerage side, because I went from our asset side to brokerage and then back to asset, was understanding that, you know, like where I'm at, our dispatch is just a little bit different. We do have that relationship with our drivers. If they're not talking to us or not answering, it's probably because they're pissed off at us or something, you know, that it's one of the dispatchers or whatever, and we could get their attention. It's not because of that, but there are a lot of dispatchers that and drivers, a lot of drivers that do not get along with their dispatch. They don't. And,
Absolutely.
you know, one thing that was never talked about during the whole COVID thing, it was always drivers versus brokers, right? And shippers were involved and stuff, but the dispatchers were never brought into it. And there's so many dispatchers just raking money off the top of loads for drivers they're getting, not putting in the effort. I mean, I see it every day, you know, not putting the effort to make sure their guy's moving, you know, leave Friday at 5, didn't find the guy a load. He sits all weekend. That driver is pissed. You know, how many times as a broker did you book a load with them, right? Did you do that happened last night? We were talking, And the guy's like, you call the driver, which you should always do. And he goes, I told him I didn't want to run this load. I'm not running it. Dispatcher doesn't give two shits. He's gone. He's going home.
TJ and I were talking last night, and then I said, here, hold on. I got to take this call. I had a carrier in California that dropped off, and that's exactly what he said. Someone said that, the load's good. Called the driver, could never get a hold of him. Finally did. He's just like, hey, I'm back at the yard. I told my dispatcher a long time ago I wouldn't pick up this load. Here we are already 3 hours late, but TJ and I we're talking about that. So it's
when you talk to the dispatcher, though, he will throw the driver under the bus, right? It's the driver, the driver. That's how it is. And a lot of times when a dispatcher is getting a hold of you, like, he's been outside for an hour and a half. I need detention. Like, it's like, dude, it's only been an hour and a half. You get detention after 2 hours. And they start, when they really get freaking out, a lot of times it's because the driver is riding them like crazy. If you can empathize with that and that, like, I don't know how many times I had to jump into a situation being like, I get it, man. I know the driver's all over you right now. Okay, like, I get it. I've been in dispatch, when I was on the brokerage side. I said, I've been in dispatch. We're going to take care of him. Okay, I know he's all over you, but you got to work with us here. And that's a huge thing. That driver dispatcher relationship in a traditional, carrier setting, it goes a long way. When it even comes to service. I mean, when it comes to capacity. I mean, if you can't trust that, when you get a load for your driver, he's going to go pick it up. I've got to the point where I got to the point where, when I was actually dispatching, I didn't even call the driver to run the load by him. They just knew I was going to find the best load I could. And when I took it, they were ready to go. But there's sometimes where you don't have that trust, and there's a lot of companies where that trust doesn't exist, and they'll bail on it. And
that's rare.
So tying that back to technology.
Sorry.
Nicole, you're in the expedited world a lot. So how you guys have a lot of hot loads, expedited updates all the time. How do you leverage technology on your end to perform and do such a good job?
Well, it's really setting the expectation. So you have to, technology is an add-on, I like to say, on a lot of things, because if we don't get the driver to actually accept that ping or continually stay on that tracking device, it doesn't really work, so it's setting that expectation, telling them what's at stake too. That's a thing. Actually talking to the driver himself or herself, talking to the dispatcher, and just telling them what needs to be done. So that with the macro point or the trucker tools, it's really getting them on board to that. That's the hardest part.
Set your location to always.
It's so funny. I mean, there's a lady sitting right next to me, and she's like staring at me because it's her day is just getting these guys or girls to actually stay on this technology. And I think it makes it easier for them. I don't know what the reluctancy is on it, but I really do think it goes with the expectation. I mean, talking to a driver, it's like, are you willing to do this? Or can you do this? Not giving a pickup number until they actually do it. And so enforcing those things, especially load.
I think it's communication too to them. I mean, I deal with drivers all the time. You got Earl down in Kentucky who, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about technology. Matter of fact, you on the phone with him, he's like, I ain't getting all macro point. I ain't having Trump find me. And I have to go, hey buddy, I got to break the news to you. Trump already knows where you're at. He's already got your phone. You might as well get over it. But the biggest thing is with the technology thing is it's something that's new to learn, but they want to have a reason why. They want to know. Explain it to them. Say, listen, get on the phone with the driver and be like, hey, when I go and I sit down with this customer, right, one of the big reasons why they use us is because of our visibility, right, because of our updates. This is huge for us to maintain this business. And if we can't maintain this business, you won't maintain a job here. I mean, this is a big thing for us. I mean, it goes deeper than what you may see. I mean, a huge sell right now in the industry is visibility. You explain all that to them, make them understand why they're doing it. If they know that it could affect their pocketbook because the customer needs certain updates and whatnot, then they're going to be a lot more willing to do it rather than just because it's what all the kids are doing.
What?
I mean,
are you saying value the driver?
Yeah, talk to the driver.
Huh.
Get on the phone.
Novel idea.
Some drivers, there's techniques now. There's some drivers that when you get on the phone with them, they will not let you go. And I've got a couple different techniques, and God bless them. I'll talk to them I've got about like a 30-minute limit at night. I'll go through all the stories and everything, but then it's kind of like, hey, I gotta get the kids to bed, gotta go, or whatever. Somebody's calling, I gotta go, I gotta handle this. There's certain ways to do it, but yeah, always talk to them. Always.
Always. And you know what, TJ, that whole why conversation is not just for drivers. It's for everybody. We all need to understand why we're doing something.
Yep.
Otherwise, we don't see the point.
Exactly.
I mean, does everybody in this room have kids? You
Yeah.
gotta wash your hands. Why? Because they're dirty. So
We talk about that too in leadership, and I think we always in any podcast or anything that I think all of us have participated in is, and there's a great book by Simon. I always say his last name wrong. Simon Sinek.
Powell.
yeah,
Hey, Simon,
why.
it's not. It's Simon. What? Who's got it?
Powell.
Cynic. Yes, but it's explaining the why, and I think that's important in every avenue, whether it's technology, whether it's leadership, whether it's a coworker. Yeah, and that's with children as well. My son's only 4 months. I can't really explain anything to him just yet, but that is going to be my goal. Is I always tell my team, like, well, this is what we're going to do, but let me tell you the why, and I always try to express that this is why we're doing it. So
that goes for everything. And if you want to talk, humans and technology, I mean, you can have KPIs, you can have, track standards, you can have all this stuff that makes everything more efficient. But, when you get on somebody, or if there's a repercussion, or if things get heated in this industry, especially even with the kids, if you think about it, every time I have to get on them for something, I make sure I sit down and like talk to them like, hey, this is why I did it. With kids, you say, it's not what you did, it's that I had to ask you 10 times, not to do it. That's what frustrated me. It's not the actual fact thing that you did. Or, with a driver, it could be, listen, I know that you're deadheading 200 miles, but this is why, because if you can get over here, drop your trailer by this time, you could get this on your back, get over there, deliver here. I've got 2 expedites down in Kentucky that you can run over the weekend, get back on that load on Monday, deliver it, and it gets on your paycheck this week. That's $3,000. Boom. Now all of a sudden that deadhead seems like nothing, right? But if you just call them and say, hey, you got a deadhead this far, we'll get you on a load, and then from there we'll figure it out.
Well, and the other advantage of that is you have to explain it to yourself first before you can explain it to somebody else.
I write it down so it makes sense to myself first. Yep.
And that's, I mean, a lot of you are natural salespeople, and I've had to learn sales, and I've had to learn it the hard way by being ham-fisted and making a lot of mistakes. And, starting with why and reading Sinek's book has really helped my personal growth and the growth of my business at the same time. Is why is this important? Because at first I just built a widget, and now we have really good reasons why we built a widget. And so it's helped, and it's helped articulate it for myself as much as for anybody else.
It's awesome. Yeah, I can talk about books and different things for hours. It's, I started reading.
Well, we'll lose Tony if we start talking about books.
I was going to say,
right.
we should start talking. Let's just get back together and really quick kind of cover just a 1 or 2 minute concept of what we really took out of this discussion of things going towards the concept of dehumanization. I said it right.
That's good.
Yes,
I got it.
1 for 5.
Yes, one time out of 5.
One's all you need.
Yeah, like let's just cover that up. I mean, I think from the conversation that we even had with Brendan here. Did I say it right? Brendan?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
I'm really good today. Is that we are going to need people, right? So people are a significant part of what the world is doing with technology and moving forward. That's one of the key points I took out of this discussion.
I think one thing for me, and one thing
I think the technology is a way to connect better to the people.
Right.
Yep.
I think one big thing though is that I've looked at and started thinking about is we talked about people not willing to learn the technology, right, or wanting to get into it. Reading somebody's voice, reading somebody's mood, reading somebody's tone is something we've been doing our whole lives. I mean, that's a one way that I could tell whether you're BSing me, whether you're truthful, whether you're happy, whether you're sad. And I think that's something that we've all, I mean, at our no matter how old you are, it's something you've always done. reading technology, interpreting whatever it is something I think we're getting better at, but I don't think it's something that we know we can lean on. And I think that's one thing that people tend to do is lean on what they know and what they trust. And I think it all comes back down to trust. At the end of the day, that's just what it is. And, if I can get on the phone and just have the tone and talk to somebody and explain it in a certain way, it sounds so much better than an email. If a guy's going to be late and I just send an email trying to describe it, it doesn't matter. But if I get on the phone and say, hey man, here's what's going on, and they hear I'm dying on the hill with them, it's just a totally different feeling, I think.
I agree with that.
I agree.
I think if you can use the technology to help people make more proactive decisions, make more informed decisions, help your team become more informed, all you're doing is connecting with them on a deeper level.
I agree with that too.
It is if the technology doesn't make if the tool doesn't make your job easier, it's not the right tool for the job. And the technology's been around for a very long time. You're talking to a guy who was thrilled when the pocket calculator was invented, because I knew even in the 4th grade, I wouldn't have to learn my multiplication tables. Why do I need to learn my multiplication tables? Well, you can't use that in school. Well, that's a JIT. And so it's not dehumanizing, Nicole. I disagree with you on that. It should simply be a work tool, no different than a wrench or a hammer or a drill motor or any of the things that we use every day that we take for granted. And so I agree with the others that the human factor will not and must not disappear, and we don't have to be afraid of it.
Yeah, if I may real quick to that point, I think the dehumanizing part of it is coming from that every company, whether it's brokerage, freight forward, whatever it is, has this rush to get the best technology platform out there, right? And they're selling that harder than they are their sales, their customer service, and it's dehumanizing the entire part of the industry in that aspect, where everyone's racing to have the best platform, best technology, and then there's not. That's their entire focus. But on the trucking side, I think the advances in technology has made, I've only been doing this 11 months, but it's made my job easier. I've talked to reps that have been here for 10 years, talked to drivers that have been doing it. The drivers are a little more, less happy to hop on the bandwagon for it, but it makes the trucking side a lot easier. But when it comes to either the customer service side, I think people are focusing way more on selling their technology than selling themselves or their service or their carriers, whether it's asset-based or brokerage, whatever it is. And that's really taking away from the human aspect of the industry, in my opinion.
At the end of the day, does technology not actually bring humans closer? Does it not connect us a little bit more? Like if you you've talked about the technology, you want the best platform. Is that not a platform like that? The best technology is like where your customer has access to your TMS system, right? And you guys are now brought that much closer. Without that, there's a lot less communication, a lot less, bargaining and one-on-one updates and things like that. It really, at the end of the day, in the industry, I think what brings the value is that it brings the human, like the connection and the understanding closer, rather than you can't get the guy on the phone, because he has to stop at the truck stop to get on a payphone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about it. When back in the old call-in days, when drivers were supposed to call in and report their location, and they wouldn't do it, I have to call and say, "Hey, where are you? What are you doing?" And instead, now if I know where they are and I know what their duty status is, I can call and help them solve problems. I can call up and say, "How are you? Is this okay?" And start to understand more about them and have more human conversations. We should have more time for that now. If the technology is working, it's saving us time to be more human.
Yep.
100% agree, but not everyone has that mindset. I wish they did.
Well, they will when we keep putting it out there, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not everybody knows what a pocket calculator is either. I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say thank everybody for coming on. It's been awesome to have you, Andrew, and Brendan, coming on and talking to us about your thoughts. You guys added a lot to the conversation. So
thank you for having us.
You guys can take a look at the next week's topic and maybe give some good input on what we have going on next week too.
Absolutely. For everybody that watches this, make sure you like, subscribe, tune in. We want people to join in. We want people to have fun. You know, we're just sitting here on a Thursday night, holding my beer, talking freight. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Have a
Take
great
care,
weekend.
everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Be good, people.
Bye.